Welcome to The Hypnotist, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. This podcast features powerful hypnosis, so do not listen while driving or operating machinery. This recording is not suitable for those with epilepsy or severe mental health issues. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and in today's episode of The Hypnotist, you'll be listening to a hypnosis session that was actually created for a gentleman that had very severe anxiety based around going out in public, particularly when it came to food and eating. So there was an element of social anxiety, but it was also linked to this idea that he was going to be judged or evaluated by other people. So in this particular hypnosis session, what you're going to hear is two very powerful metaphors that communicate at a very profound level the consequences of using avoidance to cope with anxiety. Now, I've been doing this for a long while, and I've worked with hundreds of anxiety clients, severe phobics, panic attacks, all kinds of the level of anxiety that is really detrimental to a quality of life. And what I found is that there are two key ways that people use for coping with severe anxiety. And number one by far is avoidance. So they figure out very quickly whatever they believe is causing the anxiety. And then the logic is, if they avoid that thing, that place, or those people, then anxiety goes down. So that's number one. And the second method that people use to deal with anxiety is self-medication, drink, drugs, food. And the problem with that is that it does work temporarily. And that sets up an addiction loop, because if it works briefly and it does lower the intensity of the anxiety, whatever it is that you're taking, then actually whenever you feel that, you're going to be rewarded by doing that addictive behavior, which is creating the addiction. The addiction is actually a coping mechanism. But in terms of avoidance, the reason that avoidance doesn't work when it comes to anxiety is that it creates a reference for a belief system that you can't handle whatever that stimulus is. And therefore, whatever you avoid becomes a new boundary, a new limit, and then that creates more anxiety, which is why if you speak to someone with severe anxiety, they'll tell you it didn't used to be that bad. But because they've avoided things and avoided things and avoided things, their life gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And I'm saying this as someone that when I was 19 years, I was a recluse for almost a year, avoiding people, avoiding social situations, thinking that would help. Actually, it increased the level of anxiety so much that just opening the door to my apartment would get my heart racing to about 200 beats per minute. That's kind of labeled a panic attack by most people, because by avoiding, it then creates a new barrier. So metaphorically speaking, in this hypnosis session, I actually use two metaphors. One is a noose. So if you think of a hangman's noose from, let's say, the Victorian times here in the UK, that would be the death penalty, death by hanging. And the noose, effectively, the rope around the neck gets tighter and tighter. So if there's any kind of gaps, that creates a vacuum for the noose to get tighter. And also this idea of closing walls. And in both cases, avoiding or moving away from whatever is perceived to be the cause of the anxiety actually creates more anxiety because you have less space. Obviously, being in a closing room with walls getting closer or boundaries getting closer or a noose getting tighter is not a desirable state. So that's the beginning of the hypnosis session. It then follows, well, how do you loosen the noose? How do you make the walls go further? And effectively, it's doing things deliberately outside of this confidence zone, this comfort zone. And by doing that, you expand the boundaries of your anxiety. And then you'll hear future pacing with 3 different levels. So what's at the border, what's beyond the border, and what's far beyond the border. And it's designed to get someone in a resourceful state thinking for the first time that actually avoidance isn't a solution, it's actually a cause of the problem, because otherwise you create this self-fulfilling prophecy. I think this will be useful for anyone that deals particularly with social anxiety or generalized anxiety disorder. If you're listening to this though and you're thinking it doesn't quite fit, particularly because there's some references to food and eating out, and you feel like a more customized session would be useful for you, there will be a link nearby that you can book a free 30-minute session with me, and then I can just discuss what I've done for other people to see if it might be useful for you. But for now, find a quiet place where you won't be disturbed, relax, and enjoy the session. Okay, take a deep breath in, and on the outward breath, close your eyes. That's it. As you breathe in, just imagine that you're breathing in a resourceful feeling of relaxation. And when you exhale, just imagine that feelings of tension or anxiety are leaving your body in the outward breath. That's it. Position your body in any way which enables you to feel most comfortable. That's it. Continue to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. And occasionally while I'm talking, your conscious mind will pick up on different sounds. Not just the sound of my voice, but the sound perhaps of the air conditioning unit. Maybe footsteps or voices in a nearby room. Maybe the ticking of a clock that was always there, but you just didn't notice it until I said. As you continue to breathe in and breathe out, notice that with each outward breath, you're feeling incrementally deeper and deeper relaxed. That's right. I want you to use the power of your imagination to imagine a warm color that represents resourcefulness and confidence. Maybe a yellow and an orange. Imagine it bright, glowing. And imagine that as you breathe in, you're breathing in that warm, resourceful color of relaxation and confidence. But also notice that as you exhale, as you breathe out, imagine what it would look like to breathe out a darker color, perhaps gray or shadowy, that represents feelings of tension, stress, or anxiety, leaving your body in your outward breath. That's right. Deeper and deeper relaxed. And as your physical body relaxes, I want you to notice that as your body relaxes, your mind becomes more alert. Imagination is the interface between your conscious and your subconscious mind. Fears quite often are just your imagination playing tricks as about future events that probably won't even happen. But let's use that imagination for something positive. I want you to imagine opening up a book, perhaps Lord of the Rings. Imagine flicking through the pages in the early parts, reading about the Shire. Maybe a description of one of those tiny homes in the hills of the Shire. And as you imagine it, I want you to teleport yourself there into the Shire. I want you to imagine opening one of the doors to one of those empty little houses. Maybe you have to bend your head under the doorway. But notice that it's bigger on the inside than it looks from the outside, and I want you to find a warm open fire, and the most comfortable chair that you've ever seen. Imagine taking a seat there in that comfortable chair. There you are in this little home in the Shire, inside a book, inside your imagination. And I will count down from 10 to 1, and with each descending number you will feel deeper and deeper relaxed. 10, as you breathe in that warm colour of relaxation. That's it. Exhaling tension, stress, anxiety. That's it. 9, as you breathe in, notice that any tension around your forehead or around your eyes just starts to melt away. And as you exhale, feel that tension leaving your body. That's right. 8, now focusing on the muscles in your jaw, your cheeks. Notice the tension. Be aware of the tension. Breathe in that warm, resourceful feeling, and then exhale that tension, allowing it to leave your body. That's it. Deeper and deeper relaxed. That's it. 7, now focusing on your neck and your shoulders. Notice the tension, feel the tension, release the tension, let it go. Now, that's it. 6, that relaxation spreading to your arms, there on that chair, in that tiny little home in front of the fire. That's it. Melting any and all tension away. That's it. 6, even your internal organs start to relax. Your heart relaxes. Now. Lungs relax. Now. That's right. That's it. All of those internal organs, your liver, your kidneys, your heart, your diaphragm. That's it. 5, now going into your gut. Even your gut relaxes. Your gut and your chest are the signals of anxiety, and allow all that anxiety to melt away. Now, you don't need it here. Allow it to disappear. Allow yourself to relax. That's right. 4, that relaxation now spreading into your legs, melting any and all tension away. That's it. 3, and then 2, and then imagine what it would be like to fall asleep there on that chair, in that home, in the Shire, inside a book, inside your imagination. Now, that's it. And inside your imagination, while you're having that nap on that chair, I want you to imagine a room. And imagine inside this room, the room is as big as you're able to make it. There are walls in this room, and so long as you are close to the walls remain where they are. However, when you avoid the walls close in. I want you to get a sense that, to begin with, these are big, heavy walls, and you think the walls might crush you, and therefore you move away from the walls, but the walls only get closer. As you avoid the walls close in. I want you to get a sense that this is almost like a noose around someone's neck. As it gets tighter, it closes in. And I want you to get a sense that while you're feeling like you're in this room, feeling the sensation of a tightening noose, I want you to get a sense that this is not a pleasant experience. And I want you to link this pleasant, unpleasant experience to memories of you avoiding anxious situations. That as you remember being in those moments, choosing to avoid something rather than do something, feel the sensation of a noose tightening around your neck, or perhaps walls closing in. Each and every time you think of a time you've avoided something, feel that noose tightening around your neck, feel the walls closing in, perhaps creating a feeling of it's difficult to breathe, or you're feeling claustrophobic, I want you to get a sense that for a while now, perhaps 15 years, you've been thinking that avoidance is your friend. The logic being that if you avoid what you think will cause anxiety, then you get to avoid the anxiety. But all you're doing is creating the trigger for more anxiety. I want you to get a sense that each and every time you avoid, the noose tightens, the walls close in. We're going to insert a new suggestion, a new way of thinking into your mind. If your mind is ready to loosen the noose, to make the walls go further back rather than closing in, just let me know by nodding your head. I want you to get a sense that the border of your zone of anxiety is also the border of your zone of confidence. You feel confidence doing anything within your zone, within the border of your walls. But every time you avoid something through anxiety, the zone closes in, the walls close in, making you feel there are less and less things that you can be confident in. But I want you to get a sense that each and every time you do something beyond the border of that zone, the entire border of the zone expands. I want you to imagine that the Shire has a border. And the Shire represents your confidence zone. And I want you to imagine leaving this tiny little house and going on a quest, a mission if you will, knowing that there are things that you don't know how to handle. But in doing so, I want you to find that every time you go outside of the borders of your zone, the entire zone expands, gets bigger and more confident. And I want you to access the creative part of your mind, the part that feels confident in creating new ideas, new scenarios, new worlds, new ideas. When you've accessed that confident part of your character, let me know by nodding your head. And then I want you to use that power of that creativity to imagine seeing yourself do 3 things outside of your confidence zone. I want you to see yourself perhaps doing the first thing that's very easy to do. It's on the border of your confidence zone. It feels uncomfortable, but I want you to see yourself doing it confidently. And when you've seen yourself doing it confidently, realize that stops the walls closing in. Doing something on the edge of your confidence zone doesn't expand your confidence zone, but it does stop your confidence zone closing in. It stops the noose from tightening anymore. And as you see yourself doing something on the border of your confidence zone, doing it successfully, seeing the facial expression of you feeling proud, feeling confident that you've done something at the border of your confidence zone, just let me know by nodding your head. That's right. And then I want you to see yourself doing something just outside your confidence zone. Something that a previous version of you would have avoided. But this new confident version of you knows that by doing that thing outside of the confidence zone, the whole confidence zone expands, that the noose is loosening. The walls are creating more space. They're retreating. And when you see yourself doing that successfully in the way that you would want to, just let me know by nodding your head. And then the final thing is that I want you to imagine doing something very far outside of your confidence zone. Something ridiculously big. Something that nobody would expect you to do. Something so far out that even if you fail, well, who cares, because you weren't expecting to do well anyway. Whatever comes to your mind is exactly what you need to be thinking about right now, and then see yourself doing that thing well, in exactly the way that you would want to do it. You can tell from your facial expressions, your body language, the way you move, you're doing it in a confident way. See yourself do that thing that is so far out of your confidence zone. And when you've seen yourself do it successfully, let me know by nodding your head. Every time you do something outside of the confidence zone, that becomes the new border of your confidence zone. Anxiety can only exist outside of what you feel confident doing, and therefore, whenever you do something confidently, you are repelling anxiety. In the same way that there are creatures that exist, perhaps in some of the fantasy books that you've read, that would retreat away from light, I want you to get the sensation that anxiety are the monsters that you're facing, and action is light. And whenever you take action, you repel the very monsters that you've been avoiding. When you've been avoiding these monsters, you've been thinking about them more, and they've been closing in on you. And now, you will be the light that they are afraid of. You will take the action that will ensure they retreat, meaning you have more and more choices and possibilities. And if your unconscious mind accepts this to be true, let me know by nodding your head. That's right. And now I want you to remember that first thing you did, right on the border of your confidence zone, but this time feel like you're doing it from the first person perspective, that you're in your own body, and feel how good it feels to just do that. And it feels that it is in your confidence zone, that you can feel like you can do it, and that it is within your capabilities. And when you've successfully done that thing just within your imagination, from a first person perspective, let me know by nodding your head. That's it. Feel that good feeling and know that you have stopped the zone of anxiety from getting any closer. You've stopped these monsters from getting any nearer to you. And then jump into that first person version of you doing the thing outside of your confidence zone. Maybe there is a feeling of anxiety or stress in your chest or your gut, but know that you can cope. In the same way that your favorite characters from fiction face their fears, I want you to feel how good it feels to face your fears. And then feel what it would be like to actually do that thing outside of your confidence zone, knowing that you are expanding your confidence zone. And when you've successfully done that, let me know by nodding your head. And then step into that version of you that is about to do that thing ridiculously far outside of your confidence zone. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is knowing that you feel the fear and then choosing to do it anyway. Feel that fear and do the thing. Feel how good it feels to face that fear. You've been running for a while now. Now you turn and face that fear. Do that very thing. Feel how good it feels to do that thing that you thought was outside of your confidence zone, and now it isn't, because you've done it. And by doing it, this is now the new boundary of your ever increasing confidence zone. Your borders of your own place of security have expanded. You have more choices, more options. Anything within your confidence zone has no anxiety. And therefore, the more anxiety you're willing to tolerate, the less anxiety you will experience in the future, because you are pushing the boundaries of your confidence zone further and further away, until soon, not too far in the future, you will actively be looking for opportunities to do things that make you anxious, because you know that by choosing to face your fears will run away. Feel these good feelings. Feel the same resources of the heroes of the books and films that you like most. Did they avoid their fears, or did they find the courage deep within to face them? Their characters evolved as they found resources hidden deep within them that were only unlocked when they did the very thing they thought they couldn't do. And then you realize this is just thoughts within thoughts, ideas within ideas, and there you are back in a chair, in a little home, in a shire. And as you leave that home, looking out over the rolling hills of the shire, I want you to get a sense that you are now more capable. You are leaving this place with the determination to expand your horizons, to loosen the noose, to push the walls that have been closing in away. I want you to get a sense that you now know that the strategy that's been working against you for 15 years, if reversed, will be the very thing to set you free. If your unconscious mind accepts this, let me know by nodding your head. And then find yourself back here in the present, listening to my voice as you take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Just wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes as I count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.
Thank you for listening to The Hypnotist with Adam Cox, the show that gives you inside access to cutting-edge hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. To automatically receive the latest episodes, please subscribe. If you'd like to support the show, please share this episode with just one friend you think it could help. And if this episode helped you, please leave us a 5-star review.